I once worked a regular job at a hotel reception. But one evening, every belief I held about reality, regularity, and reason was tossed into a maelstrom of inexplicable fear. The evening crawled at a sluggish pace, with only the occasional echo of distant footsteps to distract Lisa and me from our idle chatter. A chime indicated a new presence, and a lady, neutral and somewhat hollow-eyed, approached the desk. Lisa attended to her check-in, and I mindlessly organized some papers nearby. My gaze, previously idle and carefree, suddenly found a haunting focus as it landed unintentionally on the grainy visuals presented by the CCTV monitor. My eyes, normally steady and unbothered, widened in a visceral reaction to the scene unfolding on the screen, where Lisa, cheerful and professional, was conversing amiably and handing a key to an apparent void, a non-entity where the lady should have been. A cascade of emotions flooded through me, my heart transforming from its usual steady rhythm into a frenetic, pulsating drum, while an icy, paralyzing shiver unforgivingly raced down my spine, encapsulating me in an ethereal dread. The rational part of my mind grappled desperately with the eerie discrepancy displayed between the tangible reality before my eyes and the inexplicably ghostly scene depicted on the monitor. Lisa, so vibrantly real and present, was there, speaking and gesturing, and yet on the screen, she stood alone, her laughter resonating in the vacant space, engaging with an imperceptible specter. The dichotomy between the two scenes was staggering, causing my mind to reel, attempting to reconcile the impossibility of what was transpiring. I was caught, ensnared in the perplexing mystery, as the specter of unseen dread weaved its icy tendrils around my consciousness, binding me in a paralyzing fear from which escape seemed an unfathomable dream. I glanced back towards Lisa and the lady, eyeing the space she occupied with disbelief. The lady moved normally, gesturing and speaking with a measure of weary kindness, her voice a serene contrast to the pandemonium that raged inside me. I watched Lisa respond, her laughter echoing with genuine mirth, and yet the screen showed her engaging with the empty air. My heart thrummed in my ears, a rapid, percussive beat marking the passage of surreal seconds. The lady turned towards me briefly, her eyes piercing mine with a chilling intensity. I was paralyzed, her gaze holding me captive with an unspoken menace that curdled my blood. I was still staring, frozen, when Lisa turned to me, her smile fading at the sight of my pale, shaken demeanor. "Hey, what's wrong?" she whispered, concern etching her voice. I could barely muster the strength to lift my arm, pointing a trembling finger towards the monitor. She gazed at it, and her smile twisted into a horrified realization. We locked eyes, sharing a silent, terrifying understanding. The lady was nowhere in sight when we dared to turn around, and the papers Lisa had been writing on lay blank, as if the lady had never existed. A feeling of dread settled between us, an unspoken agreement that we needed to check the room. We crept towards it, a silent anxiety enveloping us. Each knock on the door echoed through the silent hallway, unanswered. Lisa, with visibly shaking hands, turned the master key, and the door opened with a slow, ominous creak to reveal an untouched, empty room. Yet, the space felt dense, almost hostile, as though rejecting our presence. Backing away, we left the room and its oppressive atmosphere behind, unable to speak or rationalize the incident. Neither Lisa nor I stayed at the job much longer. That unexplainable fear, the not knowing, it was too much. The experience bound us in a shared trauma, an event too eerie to be explained, yet too real to be denied. It was my first week on the job, the new receptionist at a hotel with long hallways that echoed with quiet whispers of bygone eras. The walls, adorned with vintage wallpaper, slightly peeling at the edges, bore silent witness to countless passing lives. On a gloomy evening, an old lady in a worn floral dress slowly approached the front desk. Her eyes sparkled with a strange mix of sadness and recognition. With a voice both soft and steady, she asked to be checked into room 313. Perplexed, I glanced at the system, then hesitantly informed her, "Ma'am, We don't have room 313 in our hotel." She insisted, her voice gaining an unexpected steadiness. "It's on the third floor, third door on the left. My husband is waiting." The records from decades of guests lay in the system before me, and not once had there been a room 313. My polite refusal did not deter her. She pointed a trembling finger toward the antiquated staircase, declaring she had stayed in that very room several years ago. There was a palpable urgency in her eyes that unnerved me, a silent plea wrapped in layers of untold stories. Intrigue eclipsed my rationale, and, against every protocol, I found myself accompanying her up the creaking steps, our shadows flickering in the dim light of fading bulbs. The air grew denser as we ascended, the atmosphere imbued with a silent yet tangible dread. Third door on the left. The woman's breath hitched as her frail hand gently caressed the wooden surface where a door should have been. It was an expanse of unbroken wall. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, voice barely above a whisper. "He promised he'd wait for me here." Shivers cascaded down my spine, every instinct screamed to flee, yet I remained, entwined in the enigmatic sorrow of the woman beside me. Her gaze remained fixated on the barren wall, lips trembling, whispering sweet nothings to an unseen presence. She turned, her gaze piercing into mine, and whispered, "He's still there, waiting." Then, with an air of resigned sorrow, she departed, leaving me in the chilling embrace of the vacant hallway. After the elderly lady departed, a pervasive stillness enveloped the hallway, the air lingering with an ephemeral melancholy that clung to my very being. I descended the staircase, each step creaking under the weight of my perplexity and unvoiced fears. Hesitantly, I sought out my supervisor, sharing the bewildering tale of the lady and the non-existent room 313. He listened, his eyes flickering with a mix of amusement and condescension, before brushing off the account with a nonchalant wave. "There's no room 313 here," he assured with a knowing smirk, attributing the lady's insistence to the feeble confusion of old age, possibly entwining memories of another hotel within the frail threads of her recollection. Despite his dismissive stance, I couldn't dispel the eerie resonance of the encounter, the haunting gaze of the woman embedding itself within the recesses of my mind. Days later, amidst the routine of check-ins and check-outs, an elderly man, his demeanor stoic yet subtly edged with quiet, indistinguishable sorrow, approached the desk to return his key. He offered a nod of gratitude, his voice a mere whisper, barely perforating the subdued ambiance of the lobby. My fingers enclosed around the key, and as my eyes fell upon the number embossed upon it, my heart plummeted into an abyss of sheer disbelief and numbing dread. 313. My voice, strangled within the confines of my constricting throat, barely managed a stammered "thank you" as the man, oblivious to my internal turmoil, disappeared through the exit. With trembling hands and a mind spiraling into chaos, I instinctively moved towards the elevator, the number 313 ominously echoing within the hollow chambers of my thoughts. Third floor. I stepped into the corridor, an all too familiar chill greeting my presence. My steps, hesitant yet inexplicably drawn, led me to the third door on the left, where an uninterrupted wall stood, as barren and enigmatic as it had during the perplexing visit of the elderly lady. My palms pressed against the cold, impersonal surface as the echoes of the man's departure and the woman's sorrowful resolve cascaded through my thoughts, entwining into a haunting melody of unanswered questions and spectral mysteries. I've been the receptionist at this quaint hotel for more years than I can recall. One exceptionally stormy night, when raindrops pelted against the windows like desperate fingers trying to get inside, a family sought refuge within our sturdy walls. A father, a mother, a little girl, and a slightly older boy, their eyes reflecting the tempest's fury, yet carrying a calm demeanor. Drenched and somewhat disoriented, they stumbled into the lobby, their faces etching a silent plea. As they entered, I noticed the peculiar yet gentle air about them, like they were cradling a secret too fragile to be voiced. I greeted them with a warm smile, trying to offer a sliver of comfort amidst the chaos outside. The father, a tall man with soft eyes, approached the counter. "We need a room for 4, please," he whispered, his voice barely rising above the storm's roar. I nodded and began the check-in procedure, while the little girl giggled, playing with her mother's soaked coat, and the boy stood silently, gazing into the roaring darkness outside. It struck me as odd that the child was so quiet, almost withdrawn, as if he was listening to an unseen whisper amidst the thunderclaps. After handing them the keys to a cozy space that had always received good reviews for its comfort and homeliness, they ascended the stairs, their silhouettes gradually engulfed by the dimly lit corridor. That night, as the storm raged outside, the inn remained eerily silent, as if it were holding its breath, awaiting an unknown fate. The following morning, the clouds departed, revealing a serene blue sky, a stark contrast to the turmoil of the night before. When the family descended for breakfast, 3 of them smiled warmly, yet the little boy was absent. Concern furrowed my brows, but before I could inquire, the mother cheerfully said, "Just the 3 of us." I hesitated but served them, all the while pondering about the boy. The family chatted, laughed, and enjoyed their meal, showing no signs of distress or loss. Confused and anxious, I retreated to the back room, sifting through the previous night's check-in book, verifying my sanity against the record of 4 guests. But when I questioned them at checkout, the father calmly assured me, "We have always been a family of 3." Days turned into weeks, and every so often I would find myself gazing at the empty space in the corridor where the boy once stood, an inexplicable chill caressing my spine. Then, one evening, as a brilliant sunset bathed the earth in an orange hue, the family returned. 4 of them. The same soft-eyed father, gentle mother, giggling girl, and the silent boy. My heart raced, words tumbling over each other in my throat, but I was met with smiles and a polite, "A room for 4, please." This time, their eyes didn't reflect the calm. There was a subtle twitch in the father's smile and a faint tremor in the mother's hands. And the boy? He stared at me, eyes piercing into my soul, whispering a silent, unseen truth. As they turned towards their room, I noticed the little girl glancing back, her eyes reflecting a silent plea that her lips dared not utter. Sleep evaded me that night, as my mind wrestled with the unknown. The following morning, I found a note in place of their keys. "Thank you for your hospitality." Days melded into a blur of mundane routines until another stormy night cast shadows upon the inn. In they walked, 3 of them, no boy, just a tangible silence that echoed through the storm. This time, I found no words, only handing them the key, my hands trembling with an indescribable dread. After a sleepless night, I found the father in the lobby at dawn, gazing into the now calm, dark abyss outside. He turned towards me, eyes swollen and red, whispering, "Have you ever lost something you never had?" He left with the rising sun, and I stood there, the chilling silence wrapping around me like a spectral shroud. I never saw the family again, yet their presence permeates through the inn, in the silent corridor, the untouched room, and the unseen figure of a boy forever imprinted in my memory. Sometimes, in the stillness of the night, I find myself pondering over his silent gaze, wondering about the unspoken words and unshed tears hidden behind those young, knowing eyes.